Something strange happened after Starmer rolled out his new asylum crackdown. The numbers didn't fall, the politics didn't calm down, and Britain didn't suddenly become the fortress Westminster promised. Instead, something else broke. The illusion that tougher policies can stop forces that began long before today's politicians were even born. Because what Starmer is trying to do now is like tightening the taps on a sinking ship and trying to call it flood control. I mean, it looks decisive, it feels decisive, but it ignores the hole beneath the waterline. So, this week the government announced tighter asylum rules, faster removals, stricter human rights thresholds, and a promise to restore order at the border. But the border was never the problem. It was the pressure behind it. Hang in with me, guys. It's going to be a tough one, okay? And that's the part no minister wants to say out loud. Because Britain can control its procedures, but it can't control the world that produces the people knocking at its door. Now, the country isn't facing a paperwork issue. It's facing a consequence issue. So let's talk about why this crackdown won't work. And it's not because Britain's weak. Britain is a great country with great people and an amazing culture. But because the forces behind the crisis, they just don't respond to speeches or slogans or new lines of legislation. The people fleeing to Britain aren't moving because the UK has soft borders. They're moving because their countries have no borders left at all. And the question has to be asked, why is that the case? Now, part of it is, states collapsed, economies hollowed out, conflicts have been reignited, foreign powers are playing chess in regions with civilians as the board. Now, here's the thing. I mean, you can throw a net over Dover all day long. It's not going to stop the tide. And here's where the political fiction starts to crumble. Starmer inherited a system built on denial. Denial of the causes, denial of history, denial of Britain's place in shaping the world migrants are running from in the very first place. It's the same denial that suggests you can plant a tree in the sand and complain the roots don't hold. You can't stabilize a system if you never look at the soil. So let's take Libya, for instance, a country Britain bombed alongside NATO in 2011. Now, a decade later, Libyan territory is the major artery through which African migrants move towards Europe's shores. Now, let's take Afghanistan. 20 years of Western intervention followed by a chaotic exit, leaving millions of people displaced. Let's move over to Iraq, a country that went from dictatorship to collapse to insurgency to displacement on a scale Europe or the world itself was not prepared for. Now, these aren't my opinions. They're factual timelines. And yet, the debate in Britain focuses almost entirely on whether the Home Office can process asylum claims faster. It's like arguing over the speed of buckets while water pours through your ceiling. The deeper truth is that asylum numbers rise and fall based on global shocks, not domestic policies. I mean, we're talking about how wars shift, economies crash, climate disasters that break harvests, power vacuums pull regions apart like frayed cables, guys. That's the windstorm driving this crisis. Starmer's crackdown is just rearranging leaves. But here's where it can even get more complicated for Britain. Because every time government tightens asylum rules, the smuggling networks, they just adjust. Every time you shut one door, desperation for sure is going to find another one. This is why the boats keep coming. Not because Britain is soft, but because the alternative is death or extinction. So no amount of border enforcement can outmuscle a person running from collapse. And the irony is that Britain talks about migrants as if they're marching with a political agenda. They're not marching, guys. They're escaping. Starmer's team knows this. The intelligence services know this. The Home Office knows this. But telling the truth is bad politics. It's easier to promise control than to admit the world is bigger than our borders. So, this crackdown, it becomes kind of a theater, a performance meant to convince the public the government has a lever big enough to whitewash their own history. But history is not a lever, it's a tide. And here's the part that puts Britain in a bind. If you don't address the primary causes, you only delay and exacerbate the consequences. And if you only delay them, the next wave hits harder. And then that wave after that, and the wave after that. So what would real control look like? Well, it's going to have to start with investment and not fences. Diplomacy, actual diplomacy, and not slogans. And stability, not symbolic enforcement. Policies that reduce the need to flee, not policies that punish the ones who already did. And for God's sake, stop bombing and stealing the resources of all these other countries. But that requires some honesty, some looking in the mirror. It requires admitting Britain and the West is not an island in the world's story. It's a character in it, one of the main ones. And everything you do in the world eventually writes its way back to you. So the crackdown won't fail because Starmer's weak. It's going to fail because the forces driving migration are stronger than any government's desire to look tough. And until Britain confronts the world it helped shape, it will keep fighting shadows instead of root causes. So the next time a minister says they're regaining control, remember this: you can control a door, but you can't control the wind. And right now, for Britain, the wind is coming. All right, guys, do I have this all right? Do I have it all wrong? Put in the comment section below. I look forward to reading and replying to all of your guys' comments, good and bad, because I know I'm going to get a lot of bad ones from this one. But in any event, guys, thank you so much for joining me here on the baseline, and we'll catch you on the next round. Okay, cheers, everybody.